On April 28, 1908, the Indiana sky turned black, not from storms. It was smoke from a burning farmhouse, revealing America's horrifying serial killer. Beneath those ashes, investigators discovered something that shocked the nation. This discovery would shock the entire nation, revealing a horrifying serial killer. Dozens of body parts were buried in the garden like discarded trash. They were hidden in the cellar and scattered across the property. The farm's owner, Belle Gunness, lured lonely men with promises of love. She vanished into thin air, leaving only questions and corpses. This is Belle Gunness, a Norwegian immigrant turning the American dream into a nightmare. She stood 5'8", weighing 200 pounds, possessing terrifying strength. Her true power was not physical. It was psychological. This lethal psychological power turned a dream into a nightmare. Belle arrived in America in the 1880s, settling in Chicago. She married Mad Sorensen, opening a confectionery shop together. Then the shop burned down, and insurance money arrived. That's when a sinister pattern began to emerge slowly. In 1900, Mad Sorensen died suddenly with two policies overlapping. Official cause was heart failure, but symptoms suggested poisoning. Belle collected money without questions, a dangerous killer's lesson. She learned a dangerous lesson. She could get away with murder. 4 years later, Belle married again to Peter Gunness. They moved to a 48-acre farm in La Porte, Indiana. This isolated land allowed Belle to do whatever she wanted. Far from prying eyes, she faced no curious neighbors asking questions. Peter didn't last long, dying 8 months after the wedding. A heavy sausage grinder fell, striking him in the head. That's what Belle told the coroner, implying suspicious circumstances. A generous insurance payout followed, and no questions were asked. Criminal psychologists explain killers like Belle don't start with schemes. They begin with small, successful transgressions, building confidence. Each murder refines their method, eroding any past conscience. Belle adapted, becoming more dangerous with every profitable death. Belle discovered Lonely Hearts ads, transforming her into a systematic killer. Lonely men placed personal ads in newspapers seeking wives. Belle turned the system inside out, becoming the hunter. She placed her own ads, and responses flooded in. Her advertisements were masterpieces of cunning manipulation. She described herself as a wealthy widow with a prosperous farm, writing about security, partnership, and a promising new life. Crucially, suitors should bring money, proving their commitment. The men arrived, one by one, with suitcases full of cash. They traveled hundreds of miles with hope and money. They wrote letters home, saying they'd found love. And then, they simply vanished without a trace. Jamo arrived from Minnesota in 1906 with a fortune. George Anderson came from Missouri, bringing his life savings. Old Budsberg, Henry Gaholt, and Olaf Svinnerud also disappeared. The list grew longer, and Belle grew richer with each disappearance. Chillingly, some men wrote home describing Belle as charming. They had arrived safely, happy before the letters stopped. Families assumed new lives, unaware of the grim truth. No one suspected the grim truth buried beneath Indiana soil. Belle had a handyman, Ray Lamphere, working on her farm. Neighbors noticed an odd, intense relationship between them. Ray seemed devoted, protective, almost obsessed with Belle. Ray knew about the man who never left and nightly digged. The farm itself became notorious among locals for strange reasons. Strange smells drifted from the property, especially from burning refuse. Neighbors heard digging and heavy objects moving late at night. Belle's intimidating nature deterred questions about the odors. Then Andrew Helgillian arrived, and everything began to unravel. Andrew had a suspicious and protective brother named Assel. Andrew traveled to La Porte in 1908 with $3,000. After one brief letter, silence followed, and Assel grew worried. Assel wrote Belle, asking about his brother's whereabouts. Belle's responses were evasive and strangely contradictory. Her stories kept changing, hardening Assel's suspicion to certainty. Assel traveled to La Porte, demanding answers and threatening police. Belle felt the walls closing in after years of impunity. Someone now asked questions she could not convincingly answer. Belle went to authorities, claiming Ray Lamphere threatened her. This calculated move removed a witness, posing her as a victim. Ray was arrested for trespassing in early April 1908. He told people Belle would disappear. Something terrible was coming. He spoke ominously about fire and death, largely dismissed. Ray knew Belle's capabilities, understood her desperate plans. On April 27th, Belle made out a will with her lawyer. She seemed agitated, telling him Ray would be responsible. Belle was building a narrative, constructing an alibi in advance. That night, she withdrew all money, returning to darkness. At 4 a.m. on April 28th, flames consumed the farmhouse. Neighbors rushed to help, but the blaze was too intense. The building collapsed into smoldering ruins before the brigade arrived. Everyone assumed the family perished in a destructive inferno. Ray Lamphere was immediately arrested, charged with arson and murder. Evidence seemed obvious. Public threats seen near farm that night. Investigators sifted through ashes looking for remains. They found something, transforming it into a horrifying discovery. 4 bodies were found, 3 children and an adult woman. The woman's body was strange, decapitated, smaller than Belle. The coroner realized bodies were dead before the fire started. This was a deliberate, staged event to fake a death. Assel Helgelian demanded investigators the property. Reluctantly, investigators began digging in Belle's garden. What they unearthed made national headlines and macabre tourism. Body after body emerged from shallow graves, dismembered, decomposed. Andrew Helgelian was among the victims, his body cut into pieces. Investigators found at least 14 victims, potentially more. Some are missing suitors, others unidentified human remains. The farm was a slaughterhouse. Belle chose victims society wouldn't miss. The nation questioned, had Belle died or escaped the fire? Doctors violently disagreed about the headless corpse's size. Some pointed to dental work and clothing as evidence. Had Belle killed her children and fled, or was the family murdered? Ray Lamphere went to trial for murder and arson. Prosecution argued jealous rage. Defense claimed Belle staged death. Jury found him guilty of arson, not murder, a compromise. Ray died in prison, taking his secrets to his grave forever. For decades, people reported seeing Belle Gunness everywhere. Witnesses swore they spotted the killer under assumed names. Credible sightings and pursued leads were never confirmed. Belle remained a ghost, suspended between myth and reality. The final death toll remains unknown. Estimates vary widely. Belle was methodical, destroying evidence, choosing specific victims. Lonely men, drifters, immigrants on society's margins. They vanished into Indiana farmland without a trace. Belle Gunness' story endures, challenging assumptions about evil. She weaponized loneliness, turning love's promise into death. She might have escaped justice. Her farm became a symbol. Monsters hide in plain sight, waiting for willing